man, that's a clear headset. Yeah, so I've had this headset for about a couple days now, the HP Reverb G2, and 2 days is not long enough to make hard conclusions on a headset. But that being said, I can make some conclusions, and yeah, I just want to post my general, first impressions, but I'm going to go in depth on some very specific things to really talk about what I think, the best parts of this headset are, what are the weak parts, all of that stuff. So apologies in advance for me rambling, but I'll try to timestamp everything in the video so you can find the pieces that you want. And if you want to stick through the whole video and learn every little detail I think about the headset, then also go for that too. So with all of my discussions in this video, I just need to point out that I'm going to try to address if you have a VR headset, you have a starting point for my discussion. If you don't have a VR headset, I'll try to explain it so that you don't have your expectations set too high or too low in one direction, So yeah, first thing is the visuals, right? I mean, this is what everyone is kind of excited about. Believe it or not, I was actually not I was excited to try the visuals. I was interested, but I didn't know how much of an improvement it might be or anything like that. So based on my other experiences with, the Quest, Vive, and Index, having, visual differences between the headsets weren't the main things that really stood out to me between the headsets. But the G2, this guy right here, wow, the visuals are they actually live up to the hype. It's quite astounding. So yeah, in terms of the visuals for this headset, it looks just clearer than any headset I've used, for sure. So the resolution definitely shines, and yeah, I think some people might be concerned about if you're kind of comparing this to the Valve Index, you might be concerned about the field of view. It is a smaller field of view, I can confirm that, than the Valve Index for sure. I would definitely just say this is about the same field of view as the Quest or the just any standard headset. The Quest has a surprisingly large field of view actually, so but yeah, I would say this is comparable to the Quest, maybe slightly better in some ways. Yeah, so but I don't find the field of view to be a issue at all. I don't even care about missing out on a few degrees, the resolution just makes a huge difference. And when you're looking at text and stuff, it's just super clear. I really like it. Practically speaking, I like to stream, and so during my streams I'm reading chat. Reading chat is so much better in this headset for sure than it was in the Quest. So yeah, the displays look amazing. But actually what makes them even more amazing is actually not the resolution. So what I really appreciated were the lenses. The God rays are so minimal on this headset. I was very hopeful that it would be true, their marketing says they get rid of it or whatever, but I'm kind of skeptical. But yeah, no, they mostly got rid of it. I mean, there's still some, so don't again, if you're a new VR user, whenever you're looking through lenses of a display, there's always going to be some sort of, visual artifact that can arise from looking through a lens. This is true for wearing your glasses. This is true for even people without glasses. Your own eyes, astigmatism, you can have your own eye lenses give you those types of artifacts too. So anytime you're looking through a lens, there's always going to be some features of that, but they really reduced it. So every other VR headset that I've tried, Vive, Quest, and especially actually the Index, had God rays or kind of reflections that you could see in the lenses. And the G2, wow. I'm so impressed by the visuals of this headset. Let's see, what else should I say about it? I mean, the refresh rate's 90 hertz, feels great. Again, that if you're choosing between this and a Valve Index, the Valve Index does have a higher refresh rate. If you're very sensitive to that, then, that might be a plus for the Valve Index where this doesn't have it. But I think 90 hertz is fine for like the vast majority of people, and I think the resolution bump is what I personally really appreciated out of this. So it is really nice. I do like the visuals, and they've got very, very vibrant colors. So the colors of this display are like, they're just very bright. It's really nice. They've done a spectacular job with the display and the lenses on this headset. Another thing people worry about with this headset are the black levels. So the the black levels are fine. They're good for an LCD display. They're really good. And I think, like, just keep in mind, an OLED display is always going to have better blacks. That's just by the way they work, right? The pixels can actually turn off. And so, yeah, so, it doesn't look as good as OLED in terms of black levels, but honestly, it's totally fine. I wouldn't even, don't even make that your concern. Actually, more importantly is really, as I said, the God rays and the reflections are greatly reduced, and so that really helps in dark scenes. So like when you're in a dark scene in the G2, it looks really good because it just doesn't have any extra reflections or anything going on. And another thing too that I wanted to mention is that the headset actually does a really good job of sealing out all of the extra light from the outside. Most headsets are pretty good about it, but the G2 is extra good about it. In particular, you can see the nose area here. Basically, there's the nose flap on the inside is really, really good. It's very comfortable, so I don't find it distracting, but it seals out all of that light. Like, I can't even look out the bottom of the headset, which has its pros and cons. One thing that I like to do is, to be able, especially if I'm like, maybe I can send a text message or something, while looking at the bottom of my headset, or like look something up on my phone, so I don't have to like be holding the headset off my face all the time. But anyway, yeah, it blocks out the light really well. No reflections. Black levels and dark scenes in the G2 are a absolute pleasure. It is amazing. And one other thing too is, how good is the overall immersion on this headset? So if you remember in my past video of the Quest versus the, Vive versus the Index, I actually somehow managed to find that the Vive was a little more immersive to me for some reason. I speculated that it's because it makes a good seal around your face, and indeed, with this headset, it does make, I think that really good seal does make it so that the immersion is also really high here, and with the really good visuals. So yeah, just super, super immersive. So good job, HP. The audio is kind of what I expected. It's the Valve Index audio, and I've tried the Valve Index, and yeah, it's great audio. Can confirm. These headphones are amazing. Being off ear and sounding like you have headphones on, like over it, it sounds like you have headphones on your ears, but it feels like you have nothing on your ears, and it's just incredible. Amazing audio experience. Honestly, that was one of the biggest selling points for me of this headset. I was like, it's got the Valve Index audio. Because honestly, otherwise I might have gone just with a Valve Index, just for the audio. Like, the audio alone is amazing. Yep. So let's see, what else should I talk about? Comfort. So yeah, my first impression of the comfort is that it is insanely comfortable. I mean, like, you just, like, I wish I could, describe it in good words. I wish I was better at talking, but it's super comfortable. Like, I wore this on and off for, like, 6 hours the other day, and not once did my face have, like, pressure points or, marks on it. So at least for my face, this is really, really comfortable. I would say for most people, it's probably gonna be really, really comfortable. The Quest is the comparison that I really have, and the Quest is super uncomfortable in comparison. I mean, the Quest is an uncomfortable headset. But again, if you're new to VR, so if you've never had a VR headset before, keep in mind that you're putting something on your face ultimately. So of course you're gonna feel that, you know, it's not like they didn't magically make this feel like nothing, but the comfort is like I can just say in comparison to other VR headsets, this is woo, like super comfortable. I can't do a direct comparison with the Valve Index because I never tried it for that long of a duration, but the Valve Index was also very comfortable. So this gives me a lot of like Valve Index comfort vibes. You know, you're getting basically the Valve Index audio and comfort with this headset. Also, by the way, I really like this feature. You see that it's vertical, and that's really nice because I can just like, you know, take a peek into VR and do a thing and then like take a peek out. It's really good for like if you're troubleshooting stuff. Yeah, so maybe you know, I can talk all day about the headset. So if you want me to ramble about the headset in a video, I will be happy to make one. But let's get into the drawbacks. So like you can just take my word for this HMD. Like this headset is a dream. Like it is so good. If you are into Sims, if you are into movie watching, if you are like, you know, into any like control pad games or anything, like, you know, where you're just using HMD, like this is top of the line, enthusiast level amazingness. So then we get into the controllers and the tracking, which is probably what a lot of people are kind of interested in because there's a lot of conflicting information out there, a lot of conflicting views. Again, take any reviewer's statements and anyone's opinions, including my own, with a grain of salt. Okay, so like, you know, just keep in mind I'm throwing in my 2 cents, but you know, you'll have to draw your own conclusions. So let's get started with my opinions. So controllers. These are the Reverb G2 controllers. Sorry, they're a little blurry. I guess I should probably take off the background blur. These are the G2 controllers, and this is my Oculus Touch controller. So you can see that they have a lot of similarities in design. Yeah, you can see that the G2 controllers are bigger. I think like, it's kind of interesting. So like if I close my eyes and I'm holding this controller, like I don't think of it much. It's not like, oh, this is clearly a huge control, you know. It's just like on camera and like visually it looks big. Like this looks much bigger than this, you know, visually. But in terms of, you know, weight, it's not too much heavier. The main thing that makes it heavier is really the fact that it needs a second AA battery in there compared to the Oculus Touch controllers. Ergonomically, I think these controllers are great. They feel very standard to me. I do like how the buttons click. I like how the trigger goes in this. So they all have like pretty good feeling on them. So yeah, the controllers are alright. There's no capacitive touch on them, so you know, keep in mind if you think you're gonna be into VR chat or maybe other games that you know, maybe you're excited to use a capacitive feature of a controller. Yeah, you're not gonna get that here. So bear that in mind. But I mean, overall, the controllers feel fine. I wouldn't rave about them, but I wouldn't complain about them, and I'm not going to. So finally, we come down to the tracking. So I know a lot of you are definitely going to be interested in the tracking, as was I. That was my biggest concern with the headset. Yeah, before I jump directly into it, I just want to let you know, again, any reviewer, you know, take their experience with a grain of salt. You know, that is their, you know, I'm going to give you my individual experience, but you know, broadly, you know, make sure to look at all of your reviewers' videos, you know, gather the information you can and then make your own judgment. So my very broad statement about the tracking would be that the tracking is the weakest part of this headset, for sure. And I think that it's okay. Like I can use it, you know, I think it's okay for games. You know, but it's definitely just not up to the standards of Oculus or obviously the Lighthouse tracking systems. Now that being said, the tracking here suffers from a few problems in my opinion. So the biggest one being, I think, the tracking volume. Now I think they you know, I haven't used the WMR headset, so like, you know, again, I think it's probably an improvement on WMR, but you know, Windows mixed reality headset. So these side cameras certainly must be helping the tracking volume. But on the front here, I can tell you that, you know, so like if I have my headset like this and I'm like in a menu, for example, I'm just holding my controller down here, it can definitely start to lose tracking, even just down here, just because the tracking volume, I think, just doesn't go down far enough, and it also doesn't go high far enough. So I can actually, if I raise the controller too, you know, going up, the controller will lose tracking even within my own field of view in the headset. I can see my controller lose tracking. So, you know, obviously the Oculus headsets also lose tracking. You know, they don't have like perfect tracking volume, but some combination of their tracking predictions as well as the breadth of their tracking volume makes it so that you really don't notice it or you know, don't care about it. So I found with the Oculus Quest that, you know, I can kind of forget about the tracking. You know, I can use the headset and just kind of forget about the tracking and just enjoy it. With this one, I feel like, you know, if you start to forget about the tracking, then you start running into the tracking issues again. You know, it's like you have to kind of keep in mind the tracking volume. You know, that being said, there actually are certain things that the tracking on this headset is actually better than my Oculus Quest for. So I found for doing overhand throw, so like throwing a grenade or something, I found this headset actually was better for me than my Oculus Quest. For some reason, my Oculus Quest, I guess I must just be going out the tracking volume, and you know, then the throw is not very clean, and so it can kind of, it's not very consistent, my throws. But with the G2, actually, my throws are way more consistent. So I do like throwing things in the G2 actually better than my Quest. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I think the G2 loses tracking more frequently, and the tracking losses are more jarring as well. So I guess the tracking prediction algorithms are maybe a little more janky, to be honest with you. So yeah, you know, everything up until this point, this headset's been pretty much a dream, but the tracking is definitely its limiting case. I want to make sometime a tracking video to kind of show you a little more about what I'm talking about. One thing I want to note though is that it's not like it's unusable, you know. So I found myself enjoying, you know, Population 1, Half-Life Alyx without really any major issues. I mean, tracking hiccup here and there, but nothing major. And I played Beat Saber, which I'll talk about in a second too. But I played Beat Saber pretty much just fine. I mean, there's definitely some tracking hiccups, as you know, as I mentioned, but it's not too bad during games. So like I said, during menus, it was really, you know, jarring to me. Yeah. Another thing that I want to talk about too is so controller occlusion. I know a lot of people have questions about that too. So I did do some tests with, you know, occluding the controllers behind each other, and seeing how the headset handles it. I think the headset was, you know, pretty good about handling occlusion. I still think the Oculus headsets handled it better. But I didn't find any major problems with this. Like, if you really lined these controllers up, you could get occlusion to be an issue. So you like line these controllers up, and then if you move like this, you'll see in your virtual space like one of your controllers just doesn't move, the one that's getting occluded. But like, I mean, you have to really line them up. Like, you have to try. Now that could happen, I guess, if you're playing a shooter and you're like aiming like that, you know. But it wasn't happening at all to me, and at least with the shooters and the guns that I was using. I guess usually in the shooters there's a little bit of an offset. You know, usually your right hand's a little bit lower than your left. So I personally didn't find any issue with it. I think it's fine in my opinion. But like I said, I think the main issue for the tracking for me was just the tracking volume, and the tracking prediction algorithms were just kind of meh, to be honest with you. I wish the tracking was better than it is, but alas, you know, we got to hold this headset up to the standards that it's setting, and I think the tracking is subpar. So I will mention that, you know, my room here, I mean, this is the lighting for my room pretty much. Right now there's only one extra light on right now, which is just like for my face. But like otherwise, you know, this is my room lighting, and it's not, there's nothing crazy going on. You know, it's just a couple lights on the ceiling. And honestly, I'm kind of the opinion at this point, like if my room lighting is the issue, that, you know, it's not super easy to change my room lighting. You know, they're fixed lights in the ceiling. It's not, and I didn't see any, you know, I personally didn't see any issues if I was using the flashlight mode or whatever to try to like see if there was some major light source that was blocking it. And even that being said, like let's say lighting is an issue for me, then you know, the Oculus headsets don't have that issue, right? So that's still something to keep in mind. It's like, you know, I can take my Quest over to anyone's house, you know, and their lighting can be different, and it pretty much always works. It actually works in pretty dark light as well as fairly bright light as well. So yeah, you know, my Oculus Quest tracking is definitely like very noticeably better than my G2 tracking. So I'm sorry, G2, but the tracking is not nearly as good. But again, like I said, playing most games, you know, doing most things, as long as you keep the tracking volume in mind while you play, it's fine. And it, you know, it really is all right. I mean, I think like if you're not, you know, if you're not too concerned about those aspects, like maybe most of the games you're really interested in playing are sims, like you're really interested in Microsoft Flight Simulator, or you know, you're just into a lot of like the seated experiences, and maybe there's a couple room scale games that you're also into, I think this is fine. I mean, you can use it. Like I really don't think it's a like necessarily a deal breaker for some people, but I do think for some people it will be a deal breaker. So yeah, you really have to value the tracking, I guess. And in my opinion too, from my old video, you know, the Quest versus Vive versus Index, I mentioned my opinion that if the tracking is breaking, then that ruins the whole thing, really. Like, you know, VR, I think in my opinion, what makes VR is your ability to, you know, see and interact with an environment, a virtual environment. So, you know, a lot of headsets like have good enough visuals to be seeing the environment. You know, you don't need the G2 to see an environment. Like the graphics actually are not the critical part of VR. It's really your interaction with it. And so the tracking is super important. So it's a huge shame. It's a huge shame for this headset that the tracking, in my opinion, is not as good. You know, it's not as nice of an experience because of the tracking. Really unfortunate. But anyway, take everything with a grain of salt, you know, and keep in mind that I can still play games with the G2. I've only been using the G2 lately, you know. I haven't felt the urge to like go back to my Quest right now. Like I love the comfort, audio, visuals, you know, and the tracking is acceptable enough for me at the moment. So finally, we get into Beat Saber. So let's say you are a Beat Saber player, or you're interested in, you know, how does this perform for Beat Saber? So I can tell you, you know, right off the bat, I think this headset, my broad opinion is going to be that the headset is good enough to be playing Beat Saber in, but if you're getting a headset specifically because you want to play Beat Saber, then I would go with something else. So yeah, let's dive into all of the details for Beat Saber. I'm gonna give all of my opinions. This is coming from someone who's played Beat Saber on the Quest quite a bit. So I'm not like a top player. Like I'm not like, you know, top 100 or anything like that. But you know, I am, you know, I'm in the top 4,000. I'm, you know, I've been playing a lot, you know, and I think I have a good kind of understanding of what it, you know, what competitive Beat Saber might take. You know, I'm playing Beyond Expert Plus. And so with this headset, I can tell you that I can play Beyond Expert Plus. I was playing songs that, I was playing actually right up to my level pretty much, of what I was doing on the Quest. The Quest, by the way, is actually a really good headset for Beat Saber. So you can hold the controller really tightly like this. This is how I hold it in the Quest. And, you know, you can wave it around, you know, do all your swings and stuff. really good tracking, and yeah, Quest is a great headset. But yeah, so for the G2, the controllers, so the tracking didn't limit me too much, although there were occasionally tracking hiccups. Most of the time I could play through a song without any. The main thing that would probably, you know, hold you back from competitive Beat Saber would be the controllers themselves. You know, like I said, they're a little bit bulkier, and in Beat Saber, every little bit of bulkiness is gonna hold you back. But I found that I can hold them, so I ended up holding them like this, kind of sideways. So like grabbing them over the top like this, so that I put the weight of the batteries behind my hand to kind of balance everything out. And so this allowed me to play pretty fast. So yeah, I could, I think that's the grip that I was going with for the moment, if you're interested in you know, trying a grip out. The default grip was just too, like, I couldn't do this. it's a little too much extra weight for me. But yeah, I mean, like I said, like, you know, the controllers aren't actually seriously holding me back too much. The tracking is the main thing that I worry about. You know, it was okay for the most part. Some people worry about the speed of the tracking. The speed was fine. I mean, I had no issues with it personally. But I also wasn't, so if you're really into, like, you know, high-level Beat Saber play, you know, the vibro maps, I don't do those, so I didn't try those. I think this would be fine, but you know, I can't necessarily speak for every aspect of Beat Saber. But yeah, I can certainly say that, you know, if you're interested in this headset, okay, if you're interested in this headset, and, you know, Beat Saber is just one of the many games you want to play, and, you know, you just want to have a good time with Beat Saber, but you don't necessarily want to be, like, super competitive, like, reaching the top of the leaderboards, then I think this headset's fine. Like, I think it works fine for Beat Saber. Like, you just have to keep in mind the tracking volume a little bit. So, yeah, that's, like, one of the main things. But that being said, you know, the fact that I'm still having some tracking hiccups, even though I'm keeping this in mind and I'm pretty used to Beat Saber, does say a little bit. So, yeah. So I want to, at some point, make, you know, like a tracking video and maybe a Beat Saber video, just to kind of, like, specifically address these things. But these are kind of my initial thoughts on the tracking and on Beat Saber. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you have any more questions or things you want me to address, feel free to ask them in the comments. You know, I'll do my best to try to address things. So, yeah, I hope, you know, if you found this video informative, you know, give it a like. And if you didn't like the video, you know, feel free to dislike and just let me know why you're disliking it so that I can improve in the future. So yeah, definitely my overview of this headset is I love the HMD. You know, who is this headset for is the question, maybe. So if you're a person who likes Sims, if you're a person who maybe not even like a simmer per se, but like if Sims and seated games are like kind of one of the main reasons you're getting a VR headset, but you also want to be able to do some room scale stuff, this is your headset. Like right here, this is it. This is great. You know, you can do room scale stuff. It's awesome. You know, it works fine. But like if your primary focus is room scale games, or if you're trying to do like a very broad sweep of VR, you know, and you're just, you know, the visuals are a cherry on top for you, then the tracking really holds this headset back, in my opinion. Yeah, I love this headset though. I think it was right for me because, you know, I got this with the knowledge that the tracking might not be so great for me, and you know, I'm willing to, you know, go as far as buying base stations and index controllers and doing the whole shebang there, which causes this headset to turn into more of a $1,200 headset instead of the $600. So, you know, that kind of puts this headset in a weird place on the market, because it's almost like it's really an enthusiast product at that point. So yeah, honestly, it's still a great headset. you know, so if you're, you know, if you're buying this headset as your first VR headset, you know, you're really convinced by a lot of the aspects of the headset, and you're just worried about the tracking, I would still say it's still a good headset. You know, the tracking won't prevent you from, you know, enjoying your games or anything like that. So don't worry too much. It's just, you know, tracking is the weak side of this headset. So yeah, just bear it in mind, and keep in mind, you know, maybe a more well-rounded VR experience could be found in other VR headsets potentially, despite the fact that literally everything else about this headset's amazing. So yeah, just keep it in mind. Yeah, anyway, I hope you liked the video. Again, you know, feel free to ask your questions, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.